I suppose first off, we should would start with a little introduction about yourself, how the community would know this face and the voice, especially the voice, I would say. And yeah, just give a brief history of how you were involved with GTA speedrunning in the past, and yeah, I'll go from there.
Cool, yeah. So my name's Adam, although I think most people know me as Adam AK. And I've been a speedrunner for many, many years already. First games I picked up were Metro Zero Mission and Super Smash Bros, funnily enough, so nothing to do with GTA. And I got into GTA completely coincidentally. So this was going to be back in 2012, before there was any kind of community for GTA. But I stumbled upon it. I was doing these Left 4 Dead speedruns together with Oasis, and he kept complaining about how GTA 3 runs, which he was doing on the side, how much of a pain in the ass that was, and how like the any percent category was just a nightmare to run, so much randomness, King constantly trying to screw him over. But he was the only person doing it at the time. So he didn't really have anybody who could like relate to the pain that he was going through. And he kept trying to convince me to pick up the game too. So at some point I just figured out that I'll pick it up, I'll learn the basics, and just to get a better understanding of what Oasis is actually going through. And I had no intention at all of learning this game seriously. So this was just kind of a fun thing to run on the side. My main games at the time were Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and I was doing these Left 4 Dead runs, but I was kind of burning out on those. I was kind of fed up with those. So I was looking around for a different game to switch into anyways. And GTA 3 seemed like a pretty good candidate. At the time, I thought that the runs were already pretty much as optimal as they're going to get, and Oasis's runs seemed unbeatable at the time to me. But I thought, I mean, I don't really have any other projects to focus on, so I'll just put more time into this one. And yeah, it turns out that this proved to be ridiculously popular, and a lot of people were interested in watching GTA speedruns, and a lot of people were also interested in picking it up themselves afterwards. So I think this is where the GTA community kind of sprung up during this time. At the same time, Joshua was starting his San Andreas speedruns, and that proved to be crazy popular too. So yeah, suddenly, rather than having just like 3 or 4 people speedrunning the GTA series, there were tons of us, and that's been kind of wild. So yeah, my main involvement in being part of this community is that I've tried to encourage people to pick it up, and I've tried to be as helpful as I could be to especially the very first few runners. And probably my biggest contribution would be that I optimized the GTA 3 any% run a fair bit. And I was somewhat competitive in Vice City and tried to push that game a bit more. But to be fair, I think other people have been much better at that game than I've been. So I can call myself a record holder in that one, but I think the big contributions came from others in that series. That would be, I think, my main involvement in a nutshell. I've kind of been inactive for the last few years because real life's somewhat taken over, and I've been far too busy with other stuff. But I still try to look at what's happening within the GTA community every now and then, and trying to see if there's any kind of cool strategies or any cool ideas that have popped up, or how things have evolved since the years that I was an active runner myself.
So you were talking just now about how like you started off with Oasis doing Left 4 Dead, going into GTA, mainly GTA 3, and then you realized that like Josh was doing SA, and he kind of instantly blew up, like was getting tons and tons of attention back in 2013, 2014. Did you ever see, even though you saw that immediate growth, did you ever think that GTA would become what it is now, where it's like one of the biggest communities in the world? We have like almost 10,000 users of people who are engaged in the community. You know, many runners have became doing this as their full-time job as a GTA speedrunner. Like, did you ever see any of that kind of exploding like it has?
Not even remotely. I never expected at all that it was going to get this big. Especially when I first picked it up. I mean, at that point, the only 2 people I know of who were doing any kind of GTA running were Oasis, and who was doing single segment runs, and Rebel, who was doing segmented runs, and that was it. And I knew obviously that the GTA series was very popular, but I mean, it just seemed like speedrunning GTA was never going to become that big of a thing. So I think it was it was only when Josh's channel blew up and when my own Twitch stream blew up a lot too, then I kind of had the impression that, yeah, this could actually get a lot bigger, and this could grow into a sizable community. I never expected it to get this big, though. It's kind of insane to consider that, yeah, people are doing streaming as a full-time job now, and speedrunning streaming of all things as a full-time job, and that there's so many runners in GTA, and so many people have picked up on it. And anytime I look at the leaderboards, it's just insane to see how long the list has become. We used to just have a simple Google Docs to keep track of like a handful of people's times, and now it's crazy how many people have entered this community. So definitely didn't expect this. This has been crazy.
Yeah. I definitely, it's not nearly as much as like I'm sure you have experienced, but I know with mine, when I got my first sub 1 in Vice City, the no SSU category, I was, I think, 35th or something in 2017, mid 2017, and now my 53 run is like 50th. Like I've got so much better, but I've just slid right down the leaderboards. I'm sure you've had the same thing. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Just because of the huge amount of people that are just so much better than us. Tragic, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I had a look at the leaderboards the other day just to check where my times would show up on there. And the GTA 3 any percent run, I remember that one lasted for a long time. Like that one stayed in the top 3 for ages because it was just a really good run. It's like one of the runs that I'm the happiest with my whole speedrunning career, I think. But I mean, eventually new strategies were found and tons of optimizations came into play, and now it's like the 50th run for GTA 3 any percent. And for Vice City, I think the best run I've got on there isn't even sub 1. I think I did a sub 1 run at some point, but it's like it's by today's standards, it's complete garbage. It's I think not even in the top 100 probably. It's crazy to see how many people have done really amazing runs at this point.
Yeah, so fun fact, as of like I think around a month or two ago, you actually need like a 58 now to be top 100. So unfortunately, you would not be in the double-digit squad, unfortunately.
It's crazy to think about. I mean, especially back in the days when Vice City speedrunning was new. I remember that sub 2 was a pretty decent target to aim for, and then sub 150 became a pretty good target to aim for. And I remember we struggled for ages to get to sub 140. That was a big milestone, and I think Fatska pushed it down to. It was like a low 130-ish somewhere, or like a 131 or something like this. And the game really seemed to be pushed to its limits at that point. And new strategies were found, major glitches were found, and it's crazy to see how far the game has come and how many more optimizations people have come up with.
So, I mean, you've probably kind of answered this question perhaps already because we've kind of gone down our own little trip down memory lane. But if you were to pick one specific memory or maybe a handful that really have stood out to you all this time, do you have like any particular like very fond memories or a favorite memory of your time in GTA speedrunning?
There's a few moments that stand out, and it's I think it's impossible to pick one moment in all of it. But like a really fun memory I've got is that when the speedrunning wasn't that big yet, when it was mostly just kind of Oasis and me, I remember we did our first winter mod race for GTA, which was like, I mean, it's a bit silly in terms of speedrunning because it's just a speedrun of a mod, but it was hilarious. It was so much fun to like try and beat this game that we already knew fairly intimately in such a silly and kind of fun way. And it's the same thing too with the first versions of the Chaos mod, right? Which transformed the game and made it something really, really fun. Other than that, another really fun memory I've got is we had this event. I think it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken, which we called Fake ESA. This was like a tech test for ESA, where I think Edenal stocked up on a bunch of equipment. He wanted to try it out, like do a weekend-long live stream, and we decided to make it a bigger meetup instead. And during this meetup, we grabbed one of Cannibal K9's old speedruns. I think it was the GTA 3 segmented run, if I'm not mistaken. And we turned it into a drinking game. We were watching through the speedrun, and like any moment that made us laugh or any moment that made us kind of cringe, we had to take a shot. And I mean, obviously, Cannibal K9, his runs are foundation, in a sense, of the whole GTA 3 and Vice City speedrunning scene. But obviously, when you're looking back at these kind of old runs, then there's a lot of silly stuff in them. There's a lot of funny moments in them, and we just laughed our asses off when we were watching this old run. It was kind of funny to see how far the game had evolved and how much the runs had improved. So I think those would stand out, and obviously meeting people at ESA, right? and the whole GTA gang getting together and really meeting all the people in the community and seeing who's behind the username. Those would be the highlights, I think, from my time with GTA speedrunning.
And hypothetically speaking, if you ever were to make a grand return, what would you get up to? Would you become like a glitch hunter? Would you go back to grinding out GTA 3? Would you stick to VC? What would be the plan?
This has crossed my mind many times over the last few years because I've been tempted to pick it up again. I think what I'd probably do is that I'd probably jump into GTA 3 mostly, because that's the game that I've just enjoyed the most. That's the one that introduced me to the speedrunning in the series. And I'm kind of happy with my 80% time. I don't really feel a strong urge to improve that one. But I've had this itch to improve my 100% time in GTA 3 because I never really got it to a level that I was happy with. So if anything, probably I would get back into GTA 3 100%. And I mean, my Vice City 80% time is garbage, so I think that one has plenty of room for improvements. I might pick that up too at some point and try to polish it and at least have an official sub-1 time on the leaderboard. That would already be a step in the right direction. I don't think I'm ever going to be grinding for world records. I'm not going to try to become a top runner in the series again. But I think it would be fun to learn some of the new strats and implement some of the more recent improvements to improve my times.
So if anyone might be watching this video who might become a future prospect and maybe start grinding out for those world records, do you have any words of maybe advice or encouragement as someone who's been around the block and has a history spanning almost a decade now?
I would say the main advice I would have is that make sure that you've got fun with it. Don't pick up GTA speedrunning just because it's a big community or just because it is very popular. Make sure that you pick it up only if you really enjoy the games and you enjoy the speedruns of it. The games are really grindy. The game throws a lot of crap at you. There's a lot of randomness. There's a lot of glitchy physics and such, and that can get to you. It used to get to me really badly to constantly have to reset because of bad RNG or because the physics were kind of messing me up. So make sure that you enjoy it, and if you notice that it's getting frustrating, then just put it aside and leave it aside for a bit and just revisit it at another point. Make sure to stick to categories that you enjoy the most if you pick up the games. Just make sure that you've got fun with it. And as a second tip, I would say don't reset too much because it doesn't do you any good. It just makes the running usually much more frustrating than it has to be. And there's always room for improvement. Even if there's some mistakes early on in a run, just make sure to push past that, just keep on going and try to do as many full runs as you can. And don't fall into the same trap that I once did of resetting it, going crazy 100 times every evening. That would be my main tip.
So as a quick little curveball that a question I did not send to you, because I mean, I'm sure you're expecting one of them. So I know we've talked briefly in the past about people who class us as like brothers in terms of how we sound and the games that we run, because I also did Amnesia as my first speedrun and whatnot. Do you actually see the familiarity, especially with our voices and whatnot? Because I don't personally.
I don't hear that much of a similarity, no, but I can kind of understand how people get to this, because yeah, we've got a similar speedrunning history, we've got a similar speedrunning focus, and I suppose we've got a comparable accent, maybe. Maybe that contributes in some way. I don't know, but I don't think we're that similar. I think people shouldn't be mixing us up, I would say.
Like originally, it was just kind of one of those things where it's like a few people are like, "Oh, British guy who also does Amnesia and GTA, Adam AK," right? Like it's a fairly normal thing. But it's gotten to the point now where it's like, every video I post or every stream I do is like, "Oh, I thought you were Adam AK for a second," and I'm like, "Really?" Like I don't see that much. But yeah, I can definitely understand like a fairly like we don't have particularly like rough British accents, so we speak the Queens and whatnot. But yeah, I also don't see us mixing too much besides just history and focus, as you said.
I think you're a much better runner at GTA than I've been, so I should take this as a compliment that people are blending us together here.
I don't know about that. I think if I was running in back in the 90s, I think I would be on maybe a lower level than you were at the time. So. All right. So final question. Do you have any parting words to the people who will be watching this? Maybe, just a life update if people, thought Adam AK, is he dead? Is he alive? What's going on? And yeah, maybe just a kind of final speech, so to speak, a little monologue from Adam AK.
Well, it's been wild to see that the community's this big, that it's this vibrant, that there's so many runners and so many viewers who are really enthusiastically engaged with the series. That's something that I'd never expected would happen. It's great to see that there's these marathons happening regularly, and that we get to see how the game is evolving, how the runs are evolving, how far it's been pushed. It's wild to see how it's evolved over the last few years. I'm curious to see how it'll change too over the course of future years too. And I'm going to be watching alongside everybody else because I'm completely out of the loop on what the current runs look like and what the current state of GTA speedrunning is. So I'm super curious to see what it's like. As for a life update and whether I'll ever return to the world of GTA speedrunning, it could happen. I don't think I'm going to be doing this as a main thing ever again, because those days are over, I would say. But I'll be too surprised if at some point you see Adam AK has gone live with GTA 3 100% or something like this. That might very well happen in the near future again. But yeah, enjoy the marathon, enjoy the crazy runs, and take care out there.